Hey guys, well, I'm improving. Still a little weak, but getting there. Been a long haul, and still a ways to go. Anyway, but we've been doing some woodworking, and what I wanted to do is kind of show you where we're at. Now, this is half of this conference table. Again, it's going to be 21 foot long and 6 foot wide. They narrowed it down a little bit to fit in the room. But still, it's a beast. Now, we finally decided that we're going to do it in 4 sections. There's just no way to manhandle it, load it, get it in the building if we try to do it in 2. So, we're getting there. But this thing gets shaped something like a boat. Now, this is one of the famous Charles Neal sketches. Can you even remotely see that? Kind of. This area here, rather, is kind of more, it's not going to be as squiggly as this. Sorry, man. An artist I'm not. Not with paper, anyway. But thought I'd show you some things. Years ago, I was up in Pennsylvania doing some work, and this guy had a big 12-inch 3-phase table saw, but he had a 16-foot straight edge that he had machine made at a machine shop, and he had a big power feed on it. So we were ripping down a bunch of ash. So I ripped down 3 pieces of it and made sure it was dead straight, and I laminated it together. And after all these years, it has remained dead, flat, and straight. Well, it's not so straight that way, but edge to edge, it's perfect. So we clamped it to the fence, and that's how we were able to do the straight lining on most of this. We still had to hand plane and do some touch-up. Now, we took it to the mill and had them straight line it using a laser. And it was close, but there were still some discrepancies. So John, using this big straight edge and a little bit of hand planing, we were able to get all the seams nice and tight. But when you're dealing with 12 foot and on the other tables 14 foot, that's a challenge. I mean a big challenge. And coming up with a 14-foot straight edge, that's even more of a challenge. That ain't something you go to Lowe's and buy. Why are you shaking your head at?
What do you mean, Lowe's, Home Depot, no problem.
Yeah, right. Wow. It's a beast. Okay. Now, Devin, jump up there and slide this up. Now we're mocking up for what will be the pedestal that goes under this. Turn it this way. There will be 3 of these going down. And then one side of it, we're going to have to put a door so that they can bring the electrical up to it, because it's going to get electrical along the sides for the computers and phones and all that. But you see it's got an arc in it. So to make the arc, now I've done this only in plywood. I'm going to try it. I haven't tried it in solid wood, but it bent pretty good. So what we did was we curved it about every inch. Spin it.
All the way.
Yeah, I want to show this end. And then what I did was I went in here and I cut a rabbet. 3/4 of an inch deep. This is a little deeper here than I want. But that's so when this fits in, I can clamp it as you see, but I can also clamp, the other side and make sure everything pulls up tight. Then once it's glued in, we'll go on the inside and we'll put some glue blocks to reinforce everything. Now, in the event that the solid wood does not want to bend for me, then I'm simply going to do what I did here and put a piece of plywood on the end of it. sand everything nice and flush. Then I'll resaw and make some shop-made veneer and put a veneer over the end. Now, in order to put the veneer on, what I'll do, excuse me, what I will do is I'll paint this in and the veneer with yellow glue. Let it dry. And then I'll lay it on here and take an iron. And you iron it. The heat kind of rejuvenates the yellow glue and it'll lay it down just as flat and tight as a drum. Done it many times. Oh, I could set up and make a form and put it in the vacuum bag. But man, yellow glue, both sides, let it dry, iron it on. You're good to go. And the way I do it is I just get one of those little teeny paint rollers and roll it on and make sure you don't get any dirt or trash in the glue. And again, when it's dry, just iron it on. You're good to go. But I think the solid wood will bend. Now, the other thing I thought about doing, now you got to listen close to this and think about it, is I would make a form like this and put it in a vacuum bag. But what I would do is I'd put it over the form and then take some bondo, body filler. And I've done this before. And come right down through here, go each edge, stay in enough you don't interfere here, each edge, middle, and the other side. You fill the kerfs with bondo. Quickly get it in the vacuum bag, put some wax paper over, suck it down, give it 20 minutes. When the bondo sets up, the bondo is going to keep these curves from closing back. And bingo, it's bent and you got a form. What are you laughing at?
How do you come up with this stuff?
How do I come up with this stuff? Hey, necessity's the mother of invention. And over my career, I've had to do some odd things. And that's just like the yellow glue. I mean, I read about that, and I did it, and man, it worked fantastic. So it's kind of my go-to veneer thing. Now, you want your veneer about 16th. Don't get too much heavier, because if you get a lot heavier than that, then you have a problem getting the heat in good. Now, do not use steam. I had a friend of mine veneered a bunch of stuff and did this, and what he did was he used a steam iron. He said, oh, man. He said, that works so good. He said, man, it softened up and laid down. I said, but man, you put all that moisture in there, that veneer, well, sure enough, about a week or so later, the veneer's cracking and splitting, and don't use steam. Not a good idea. Okay, now, then we had to figure out how to make this big, long arc. Again, we're 12 foot. So here's what I did. Can we see this, Jeff? Devin, let's turn it up so they can see it. What I did is I took some plywood, 4 inches wide, and glued it up end to end. Can we get in on that? I glued it up end to end, and I set the chop saw, the depth, so it wouldn't go down so deep. And again, I curved it every 2 inches. Then I did the same thing with this plywood. Then, as you can see, can we see down this? And as you can see, it allowed me to create, because that big long arc, that's tough. So this is what I did. Now, what I'll do is jigsaw this out, and I've got a washer head screw. I'll put some screws that go below the surface, and then I'll take the router and run it, and then this will give me a template that I can do all the sides. Now, before I actually put it on there, I will lay this whole thing out and draw it on here to make sure that everything's got a nice smooth radius and whatever to it. flows good and everything looks good. Okay guys, we'll be back just in a second and I'll tell you a little bit more. Okay, one of my other concerns is we're going to have to put about a 3-inch, I think maybe 3, maybe 4 apron around all these. Now originally we were talking about doing some 8/4 bands, but the electrical we're going to have to do an apron, I think. And so I was concerned about this arc, which isn't that steep, but I was concerned if I was going to have to curve the apron. So I just got a piece of pine, and the radius is so small, it'll fit perfect. It'll just go right under. Okay. So we still got a ways to go. There's going to be a 30-degree chamfer on each one of these edges, and then this apron's going to tuck in under about 2 inches. And then we're going to put our electrical in that. That's the plan so far. Now, like I said, we've got 2 14-footers that are 4 foot wide. Then we've got an 8-footer that's 4 foot wide as well. And we've got to build pedestals for all of them. So there's a lot to get done. Now, I know this is a short show, but next week we'll be more hot and heavier into this. Because basically what we've been doing is prepping all these slabs. And again, we've been taking them up to the mill and have them go through the wide belt. We did it 3 times. The first time we went through on a 40 grit and a 80 grit. Then we brought them back, stacked them, let them acclimate. Then we glued them. Then some of them moved a little bit. So we went back through. And got to make sure everything was flat and level. That allowed us to get a true straight edge on it. Got them glued up in sections. And then took them back and run them back through on 180. And right now they're dead flat and pretty nice. And going together beautifully. But again, manhandling, and without Devin and Billy and John, we'd have never got it done. And that's another reason for doing 4 sections. Just handling these things. If that thing was glued up, man, it would take an army just to lift it or flip it or do anything. And how do you get it on a truck and how do you get it in a building? So, you know, that's our issues. So again, I know this is a short show and not a lot of interest, but it'll get a little bit more interesting as we get into these. Because this is a build that's pretty unique. When you get into stuff this size, it takes a whole nother way of thinking. Jeff was laughing at me with the bondo idea, but hey, it works. He's laughing.
You love your bondo.
Well, bondo has a lot. He said, you love your bondo. Bondo has a lot of purposes. And you know, just like this, if you got an edge on plywood and you got a void or something, put a little bondo in there, sand it slick, so that your router can track it right, and you get a nice clean edge and so forth.
Filling a knot if you're going to paint.
Filling in a knot if you're going to paint, nothing beats bondo. Wood filler and whatever, it shrinks and this and that, and bondo don't go anywhere.
Right, hard and fast.
Hard and fast. You know, you can fill knots and stuff with something if you're painting, and when you're done, you'll never see it. Never had it fail. Just make sure if you're doing that you take a rotary tool or a drill bit with a drill and drill bit and clean the edges of the knot to make sure you got good sound solid wood and something for the bondo to bite in good. But anyway, but we're good. Okay, guys. Well, one of the other things is they've had me on some antibiotics and they've not been good. But hopefully tomorrow I go back to the doctor, I'll come off of them. Man, them things, man, they make me feel worse than being sick. Now nausea and headaches and you're kind of fuzzy, but we're getting there. Anyway. Going to be interesting and a lot of work. I'm down a little bit more, guys.
You look good.
I don't know about that. I'm down to 220 now and going. It's still going. Well, with the nausea and stuff, you just can't eat. I mean, nothing appeals. So. But again, like I told you last time, this is not a diet I would recommend. So, everything's got a ways to go, but we're getting there. Okay, guys, I'll catch you next week.